I've said it in videos before that when we come to something kind of midlife, with all of our experience and our ideas and our transformations along the way, you're never starting from the very beginning. You always come and carry that experience. And I don't know if you've ever thought about it in respect to your creative journey, but I think it's true there too. I think you never go completely back to the beginning. It's like this spiral that spins up, and as you grow and evolve, the circle gets a little bit wider and it encompasses a bit more, and it includes all of the journeys that you've gone on. So even if you've gone off on a tangential journey to learn about something else or to travel to a new environment, and you've gone off and you've explored this new country or this new idea, and you come back around on the spiral journey to maybe what feels like a start, might be a start of a project, but you still carry all of those things with you. I think it's so evident in the creative realm. But it reminded me that's exactly what we do when we play video games. You start and you build up skills and you learn to master particular tools or weapons or whatever the game might give you to accomplish your quests, and you don't go to the very end boss of the game in the first 15 minutes. If the game design's done really well, it paces you through that journey. It teaches you along the way. And if they're really good, there isn't even like a tutorial mode. It's just they step by step introduce you to the mechanics of the game and the skill trees, and there's got to be a balance between how much you've got to grind for reputation or experience or equipment, and it's just this constant learning, growing, evolving thing. Okay, so in this video, we're going to unpack a little bit of the relationship between that spiral, that growth spiral in creativity, and how we see it again and again in games. I'm Riley, and I'm a creative coach, and I help mid-career creative types who are maybe stuck in a corporate role, maybe feeling a little bit underwhelmed and like they haven't gotten to where they want to get to in their career path, but also feeling really frustrated about their creative journey. And I help people to get to a place where they're feeling more creatively fulfilled. They're actually getting their projects done, their books written, their art, photography exhibited in galleries. Maybe they're releasing music, an EP, or playing live with their band. Helping people to go on a kind of long journey through that, through accountability, through coaching, through support. When you start a new game, you're often, either kind of brought into this place where they're introducing you to the story, or you're going through some sort of like character development, whether that's like an actual kind of character screen where you're choosing your race, your sex, your what skill you're playing, whether you're a mage or a ranger or a paladin. And in my head, I'm thinking Baldur's Gate 3. That's the last game I really enjoyed the kind of the character creation process in. And it was a lot of fun because it was wildly, you could go anywhere with it. And it was brilliant. Character creation is a way of self-expression. It's how we want to show up in the game. And I think is an awful lot like the beginning steps of creativity. We choose our format, we choose our expression, we choose our instruments, our tools, the way in which we're going to show up in the world. And then we go into the very beginner stages. And I think, like in games, we're just really gently introduced to mechanics. Often it's like, how do you run? How do you jump? How do you pick things up? How do you start to use your inventory? How do you kind of beat some of the first levels of the game, or the first encounters that you come across? How do you engage with NPCs? There were so many ways in which game designers are able to help us to step through those processes. But I think it's helpful to remember the Zen idea of the beginner mindset, that it puts us back into that beginner framework, regardless of how long you've been playing video games for or what age you are. You're still reset to that beginner stage, and you have this entire world, game, whatever way it's put together, extending out in front of you. And it's just a beautiful moment of realization, of exploration, like all the possibilities lay in front of you. And it takes, stepping through those levels and stepping and growing in mastery of specific ideas within the game, specific skills and tool sets, that you're able to level up and kind of gain some form of understanding of how to advance, how to progress, and also how you want to progress. So down specific like skill trees and specializing and in a certain level of expertise. And many games do this in wildly different ways, from skill points that you stack and you're able to spec, and then maybe you're able to find somebody that will allow you to respec and choose to play in a different way, or maybe you create another character and you play through again at a different time, and you play it in a new way. And I think Dark Souls 3 and Baldur's Gate 3 are the most recent examples of games that I've really enjoyed the speccing process, choosing a specific path, and seeing how different the games can be when you play them from different angles. And particularly the way Baldur's Gate 3 does it. There are so many, you can play completely non-violent versions of the game where you stack your charisma, or you can go half leather and just like start a fight with everyone you meet. And that's so much fun that you've got that choice and the game responds in that way. But I think there's a direct correlation to how that shows up for us as creatives, as we explore our art practices, that it's entirely up to us to choose our own adventure. Now, if you've been to a college course or university degree in that specific art field, there will be kind of tram lines for you to work within. There's definitely room to maneuver there, but they tend to be quite rigid and strict and push you in a specific way. But that's to get you to a place where you're formed, but then it's up to you to then go and explore the world and figure out what's next for you. How do you take that skill set and how do you start to level up in a way that's directly related to your art and your craft? I think another thing that's kind of really interesting, and it's a sense of parallel, is there's a lot of games you get into and it can often feel like you're grinding through specific levels. There's a sense of, oh, I've got to get to this level to get this achievement, to unlock this, to be able to enable or empower this other system, tool, game mechanic, or get to a point where you've got enough power to beat a specific boss and go and explore a new area of the map, whatever that might be. And I talked about this in the video called Mind the Gap, where we're talking about the gap between your taste and your actual ability. And oftentimes it just comes down to practice and replaying, and sometimes that can feel a little bit grindy when we're in an art practice and we're not seeing as much movement and growth. And then I think there's also the idea of getting into a flow state. That happens in a game as well, where you can get in and you can just lose hours. In the same way that in your studio you can lose hours, you can get into a flow state, feeling really connected to your art, working well within the capabilities of your specific skill level right there and then, and being able to get to a point where you come out the other side with something that you're proud of, something that's going to feel like you're leveling up and feel like you're making progress. Whether that's a finished product or project or piece you can show or share, that's not even the point. The point is that you've made progress and you're engaging your skills and you're moving on. And every one of those iterations, and every time we go around the spiral, increase and we include and we transcend and we continue to move up and up and up. And for me, I just feel like it's very similar to gaming. One other area that I think is really connected is the idea of the respawn. We die in game and we're brought back to life. In Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, she talks about the constant cycles of death and rebirth of the artist. And she frames it in the idea that we're continually learning and moving, but growing and dying. And one of the things she talks about is with the morning pages, which is the thing that she's probably most well known for. And it's you sit down and you just write 3 stream of consciousness pages. You can write it by hand, type it, whatever works for you, but it's just meant to be the very first thing in your day. It just flows out of you. And that's kind of like that moment of rebirth, and you respawn ready for a new day and a new adventure. She also shares this idea of the artist date, where you take yourself out on a date to be inspired, to explore new territories, to go and look for inspiration in nature, in museums, art galleries, going to shows. And the artist date functions like a collection of power-ups that we pull together and weave into the next version of ourselves. And it shows back up when we respawn and we rebirth, and maybe it gets knitted in and kind of worked into and woven into the next level that we have. It might show up in your artist pages, it might show up in your work later on, but it's just this idea that as we go through these artistic deaths, that mysteriously in front of us, new paths, new ways, new tools, new resources show up. And that often happens in game as well, as we continue to explore and continue to grow. If you're struggling to have space for creativity in your life, sign up to my email below. There's a link in the description and in the pinned comment, and I'll send you a video on a digital detox and a PDF around the 7 types of rest. But also you'll get an invite to a workshop I'm going to run in a week's time on Wednesday the 30th to explore space for creativity. Okay, and if you're on my email list, you're going to get a 40% discount code. Having explored those ideas around creativity and gaming, it's easy to see that most gamers and creatives don't climb directly up ladders to the next level. They navigate the spirals. And embracing those cycles and understanding them is going to be really powerful in helping you to move forward. If I can support you anyway, please let me know. But YouTube's going to recommend another video for you right here. Take a watch of that, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.